All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shantanu, and today I'm joined by Banna, and together we'll be presenting this session, uh, which is about the art of prompting. And this session is actually an initiative of Cephalos AI Adoption, where we explore how we can effectively integrate AI and agentic AI in our workflows. Uh, this is one of the initiatives that is sharing the knowledge that we have learned and still learning with all of Cephalo. So what better place to start off knowledge sharing about AI other than prompting itself? So let's begin then. Let's start with why prompting is important. There are a few reasons. The first and foremost is that your quality of your response, that is LLM's response, is directly proportional to the quality of your input. And although it might seem that AI or LLMs are smart enough that if you even loosely prompt, you get a good answer. But since AIs or LLMs are not deterministic, rather it's probabilistic, your chances of getting a bad response from a bad prompt is also high. So the gist of having good practices for prompting is to reduce the probability of getting a bad response from the LLM. So all the things that we will talk about is about that. Reduce the probability of getting a bad response and increase the probability of getting a very good response. And the other point is there's also a hidden cost of bad prompting or getting a bad response. That is, you will be using more tokens because once you get a bad output, you will reprompt multiple times unless you get the right output. So that will use up your token also. So basically, we need to know what are the good practices that we can practice so that we get a consistently good output. So the whole session will be divided into two parts where I'll be talking about the theoretical parts of various prompting techniques. And on the second part, we'll see a demo on how these practices look like in a day-to-day development work. So this is a very loosely visualized internals of an LLM when you prompt and you get a response. So let's say that you give an open-ended prompt, like tell me about debugging in software development. So that is a very wide and open topic to ask about because you could be specific because there are multiple subtopics like debugging strategies, or you could ask about logging tools or ID debuggers. So you haven't asked it. Rather, you asked a very open-ended question that is, tell me about debugging in software development in general. So what happens is that the LLM will not choose one of these three, right? So what it will do is that it will give you an average of all these three topics. So you won't get a specialized output, rather you'll get an average one. So a prompt of open-ended nature will look like this. So you'll get a response that will contain all of the topics averaged. So we don't want that. What we want is that we want very high quality output for a very specific topic. So when we prompt like this, that, okay, tell me how logging help debugging software applications. Now I'm asking a very specific topic that is about how logging tools help in debugging. So now the probability of getting a good output regarding logging tools is very high, and the probability of the other things getting involved in my output is low. So for all of the prompting techniques, what we will be doing is that increase this probability of getting our exact desired output and decrease the probability of other things getting diluted to our results. So on a very high level, if you think about a prompt, it basically has at least three parts. That is, the first part will be what we want. Another part will be some background information. And the third part will be how we want it. So the techniques that we'll be looking into as we go on will basically either address all of these parts or some specific parts. The first one is basically that you have very clear and specific instruction. And what that means that you very clearly describe what you actually want. Do you want the LLM to explain? Do you want it to rewrite? Or do you want it to generate code? And also, as we have seen from the first example that we have seen, that we need to be very specific on a very specific focus area. So don't make your prompt open-ended. So when you prompt, be very specific on the specific perspective or the specific knowledge space that you the AI to talk about. So the last one is how you want your output to look like. It could be bullet points, it could be paragraphs, it could be generated code. So let's see an example where we have this prompt. This is a very bad prompt. Just two words, very open-ended. When I ask the AI to write about this, so it will give a lot of answers. It will show how it works in JavaScript. It will also show how it works in Python. But what if I wanted to be a bit more specific? On the good prompt, you can see that I have mentioned that demonstrate with code examples. So this is very specific that I want a demonstration and a very specific perspective of async await. That is how it improves readability and maintainability over the regular promises. And I've also defined how simple, how the output should be. That is, it should provide me with simple code examples, and then it should analyze the differences in bullet points. So this is an example of very good prompt. Let's see if I can just copy, since it's a prompt. Okay. So basically, I have tested this. So when you give the prompt to the LLM, it will give you a very specific answer that will be only focusing on the readability and maintainability. So the point is basically tell the LLM what you exactly want and how you want it, right? And which specific aspect to focus on. So that's clear, specific instruction. You take care of three things. That is what you want, the focus area, and the output. Now the next one. So this is actually very important because this gets unnoticed. So when you prompt, there are multiple instances when we write pronouns that are really vague and that does not actually grammatically point to any topic. So that creates confusion for the LLM. The LLM might be smart enough, but it might guess wrong also. So we shouldn't let the LLMs decide whether it should guess right or wrong. For example, here we have a batch example. Like here I ask to write two examples of Git commit messages, one for fixing a typo and one for adding a new feature. On a second sentence, I ask it that make that one more descriptive. So what does that one mean? It's a pronoun or a reference that does not have a clear topic that is pointing to, right? So maybe the AI is smart enough, but there is a high chance, or at least a chance, that it will get it wrong, right? So this is a very simplistic example, but the point is, whenever you refer something, do explicitly refer that. For example, instead of asking that make that one more descriptive, tell it make the new feature message more descriptive. So this way you eliminate probability of getting a bad response from vague references. All right, so the next thing is about conciseness. And the first thing that comes to mind when we hear the word concise is short, but it's actually not short. It's as long as it needs to be, not longer than that. That is, you should have enough information, but avoid filler words or fluff words. Because what happens is when you prompt, each word gets a weight. And if you use words that does not mean anything, their weights will not be zero. And it will somehow dilute the whole response. So this is an example that I'm asking very casually that, hey, could you please write something in Python that sort of counts how many things are in a list? So too many words, you and I, all of us get the idea that we want a function that returns a count of the length of the list. But this is too many words and unnecessary words. So I gave this to an LLM, and here's what I got. I guess, I hope you can see this. If not, I'll explain. On the first part, it creates what I actually wanted. But it didn't create a function, by the way. It just wrote a code that just counted my list. On the second part, it did something that I didn't ask. That is, it counted the number of occurrences of items in the list. So there are two parts. It didn't write a function because I was vague and used a lot of fluff words. And the second part is that it also did something that I did not ask. On the second prompt, I was very specific that write a Python function that returns the number of elements in a list. So I get an answer which is short and sweet and accurate. No fluffs in the prompt, no fluffs in the output. And these are not made up examples. These are exact prompts that we tested. All right. The fourth is actually very important, that we need to use concrete nouns and verbs. And by that, what I mean is that use technical words or technical jargons that we use. For example, like in a prompt, if I say React component, the LLM will latch onto the concept of React component and will use the knowledge space of React component throughout your prompt. So there's less chance of misinterpretation, right? Like, for example, on the next prompt, the first one is an example of a bad prompt. That is, we are asking that make this code better. So this is not an exact terminology that we use in our day-to-day life, right? But this has a meaning, but we didn't use technical words. So instead, what a good prompt would be is that refactor this code to improve readability and reduce repetition. So there are three words. The first one is refactor, which has a specific concept. That is, the word refactor implies that we want to restructure the code without changing the existing behavior. And the readability also has a meaning, and the reduced repetition also has a meaning, a very specific meaning, each of these words. represents the very specific meanings. So there's less chance of misinterpretation, of getting the thing wrong. That is, in the first one, it doesn't tell that how we want the code to be better. When you use words, it gets very specific. All right. The next one is to provide relevant context. That is, sometimes when you add some background knowledge to it, it may be some one-liner background or a documentation or some part of the code or some config. The LLM will give you a better answer. So let's see an example. Like here I asked the LLM to explain Git branching. So it gave me a general response describing what is Git branching in general. Right. But on the second prompt, let me read it out. Maybe it's a little bit small. In the second prompt, I asked the LLM the same thing in the first sentence, that is explain Git branching, but I add more context. That is, I have recently joined a team and I want to follow the best practices. So now the LLM, instead of giving me a generic description of what Git branching is, it is giving me specific actions that I can take so that I can follow the best practices, that I should use a main branch, and whenever I develop, I should create branches, right? And the branches should be small and focused, right? So adding context will drive the output towards your specific use case, right? Rather than being generic. That is the response. So you should always provide the necessary background information, but be mindful of that you should not add everything in the world. So then the context becomes a dumping area. So be very specific, but add context. All right. So here comes one interesting one. That is, you could ask in the prompt how the length of the response should be, or how the tone of the response should be. So why this is important is that, let's see an example, that this is a very simple question that I asked the LLM to explain what the response code 404 is. So in general, we know that this is a pretty simple answer, right? It's an error code that we couldn't find the web page. Now, there might be instances that a concept has a pretty short explanation, but I want more perspectives on it. So in that scenario, if I ask the LLMs to write more number of sentences than expected, than we expect, basically. For example, like I have asked the LLM to write 8 to 7 sentences about 404. So instead of giving me a very short answer that 404 is means that we have not found the web page, it will also describe why it happens, how it happens. So I get more information. So whether I need more information and more perspective, or we want a very specific answer, can be controlled through the output length. And by tone, we could drive the complexity of explanation or the structure of the reasoning. What I mean is that, for example, I want to know about the asynchronous programming, and specifically this, that how asynchronous programming improves performance. So I could ask the LLM to be very technical, or ask the LLM to give a response in a mentoring voice. So what difference it will make is that the first one, that is very technical one, the LLM will create basically a technical documentation that you can use to put somewhere. And the second one is when you are trying to understand it. So it will break it down in layman terms, how asynchronous programming improves the performance, right? You don't want this as a technical documentation. You want it for learning purpose. And there are other tones like formal, and later we'll see that we don't exactly define tones in this way, but we use some other concepts that uses tones underneath. But we just are learning about the tone here. Okay. Now this is interesting. Now LLMs are very good at pattern recognition, and also it loves structure. So you should always specify how you want your answer. It could be paragraphs, it could be in JSON format or list or table. And there's one more thing that we about is that for your output, without defining too much, when you'll see that sometimes how you want your output becomes very difficult to describe, but very easy to explain with examples. Right? We'll see both cases. Let's see the first thing that is asking about the output structure. So, for example, I created the content of this session in a similar manner that give me 3 prompt engineering best practices. The output should be in the following structure. So I asked that the output should be in a JSON. I actually didn't ask in the output to be in a JSON. I asked to be in a structured MD file, but the structure was something like this: that the title, I described what the title should include, and description, and so on. You get the point. So it will give you the structured output exactly as you want it. So like for comparison between 2 or 3 concepts, you can ask for a table, right? So always ask how the output should be. And also I've read it while I was doing the R&D, that when you specify the output length and the output formats, the LLMs perform better, right? Okay, now this is one interesting example that let me read it out. In this prompt, I asked the LLM to classify the sentiment of the following sentences, whether it is a positive sentiment, negative sentiment, or neutral sentiment. Now, how can you explain sentiments to the LLM, right? So that is hard to explain. But if I show it some example that for the first sentence, this is a positive sentiment, right? It says that I love this product. And because you and I, as humans, we can very instantly infer that it is positive, but it is very hard to explain the meaning of the sentiments, right? So instead, I give it a few examples of what positive looks like, what negative looks like, what neutral looks like. And the LLM will detect the pattern and will be very easily able to predict your next sentences, right? So this is called few-shot learning, very effective in prompting. So when showing examples is actually easier than explaining the stuff, do it. All right. The other part is that you should always, or at least try to add constraints. So what happens is that when you describe what you want, how you want it, and on top of that, when you add that, you should limit your output within these spaces. What happens is that the LLM stays on track. It does not get derailed from what it was asked to, or what topic it has been asked to solve. For example, like, and also it specifies the perspective that you want. Like in this example that I ask a very simple question that give me 5 short bullet points about iPhone 17. So it gave me a lot of good points about the features, technical features. So instead, I'm not interested in this. So I give the LLM a constraint that write about the iPhone 17, but focus on its demerits. Now it shows the good stuff that I'm interested in as a buyer, that it has fragile glass back, and other stuffs, right? So as I have added constraint, its answer is more focused, And this is a simple prompt, but in larger prompts that you'll see that it will not get derailed. So always add constraints. And about adding constraints, you should also be mindful or keep in mind that don't use negative phrasing, right? Like do this, but don't do this. So why I'm asking you not to use negative phrasing is that when you use the negative phrasing, as I've said before, that every word will have weights. So uh, since LLMs are probabilistic, each words will have weights and it will be not zero. So it will, if you ask it not to do something, it will still influence your output and somehow find it, sneak into your output. And I've tested this actually on Gemini. So I asked Gemini to write about the importance of teamwork and asked it that it should not make it sound like a motivational speech. Now, if you can see on the response, it started off with the word motivational concept, right? So somehow it will sneak into it. You may not notice it like this obvious way, but your quality of your output will somehow be degraded. So don't use negative phrasing. Instead, enforce your positive constraints. Like, uh, like for example, instead of don't make it sound motivational, you could emphasize on make it sound factual or make it sound only factual. So emphasize on the positive instructions instead of giving the negative instructions. Right. Okay. The next point is that you should define your audience. For example, if I asked it to prepare some contents, like prompt engineering contents to for 200 developers attending online, it will cater the output one way. And if I ask that I'll explain this to a teenager, a bunch of teenager, it will cater to a teenager. So your response will be catered to the audience. So the tone, the context, and the explanation and the thinking pattern will be catered and driven by your audience, right? Like for example, here I've asked that to describe the CI/CD architecture to a non-technical product manager. So in this whole response, there's no technical words. It just, uh, technical details. It just explains what the timelines are, that you do a code commit and the test automation starts and you approve, then it gets deployed and so on, so on, so on. So define your audience. And this is, to me, one of the most important rule, that is use role. Because what happens is that if you look at this prompt that we are asking the LLM to plan a 5-day trip to Japan and tell me about the culture and food, what sites to visit, make a balanced travel time, and so on, so on, so on. So a lot of words, right? And everything can be replaced by these two sentences, that you are a professional tour planner and create a 5-day itinerary for Japan focused on culture and food. So what happens is that when you give a role, there are some concepts attached to that role. That is how it should respond, the tone of it, and then what knowledge it should, knowledge space it should be in. Like for the tour planner, it knows that it has to give an itinerary and how to think, how to plan. And it also knows how to think about or approach the problem statement, and then how the output format should look like. So it encompasses a lot of things, a single role. So I encourage everyone to use roles, right? So there are these are the some common roles that you can ask about, like UX. You are a UX designer. You are a software architecture. When you are in plan mode, by the way, use software architect. So, and also a senior developer or a technical writer for documentation purpose, for example. Now, we'll quickly go through some other techniques that I guess you can't see this. So basically, let me explain it. I have created a GPT whose purpose is to improve, improve my prompt and to review my prompt, right? So what I did is that very loosely, I asked that review my prompt, and I gave a very long prompt. So its purpose was to review, right? And the prompt was about the webinar. Give me the contents. Give me the contents about. I mean, how to make code improvement. Instead of reviewing, it started answering my prompt, right? Why was that? Because my intent that I wanted it to review was diluted with the actual prompt, right? So to prevent this dilution, use separators like backticks or like quotations, and then ask the LLMs that review the prompt or review the thing inside the quotation. So that way, your prompt in this case or your context will not get diluted with your actual intent, right? On the second prompt, and quotations. Okay, and this is another interesting thing, that how an LLM works is that it gives higher weights to the beginning and the end of the prompt. So what you should do is put critical informations and any non-negotiables at the beginning, right? And then you have the body and everything. And then at the very last, you reiterate your critical information, because you have higher weights at the beginning of the prompt and higher weights at the end. So this is an example that you don't have to read all of this, just that I have asked that it should write playwright tests with TypeScript and always follow modular and maintainable testing patterns. So this is my non-negotiable. So I have all the details over here, and at the very end, I have reminded it that remember the output only the TypeScript code, and follow arrange act assert pattern. So this is another. This is another way to restate that I want modular and maintainable code, right? So non-negotiables and important things in the beginning, reiterate on the end. And this is an interesting thing, that you should always be polite to your AI, because first of all, your AI has been trained on real life data from real life humans. And those interactions are generally polite. So LLMs perform better when you are polite to it also. So use wordings like, please provide a constructive feedback, and so on, so on, so on. Another thing is that when you are prompting multiple times in a session, you should, when you get a good response, you should thank it. So what happens is that when you say thank you, and that's great, that's perfect, the LLM understands that this is the way that you want. So it will stick to the way it was generating output for you. So for multiple prompts in a session, thank the LLM whenever you see it's appropriate. And this is one very simple thing that you can try. That is, I have taken the example from the very beginning, the vague one, that is give two examples of Git commit messages, one for fixing a typo, another for a new feature. So where the pronoun was basically vague. So here, what I've done is that I've given the same prompt, vague prompt, and I've asked the LLM to rephrase it first in its own word and then respond. What will happen is that I will get a visuals of what it understood, and I can drive the next that this is wrong or this is right, right? So it has correctly identified that the expanded explanation should refer to the new feature addition, right? So rephrase and answer prompting is, give a prompt, it might contain vague things, ask the LLM to rephrase it first in its own word, and then start answering it. What will happen is that you will know that what it is understanding, right? And these are some small things that this is not necessary, but this is good to have, that you should have some templates like goal, role, context, and you just fill up. So it helps you helps you keep in track that you should give these things on the prompt. Okay. And this is one last thing that is, this is a practice and it's not a prompting technique. That is, whenever you should experiment and watch out for good technical words. Sometimes it happens that when you give a vague prompt, the LLM will respond with technical words. So you should watch out for those, that since the LLM is responding with those will be necessary when I are referring to the knowledge space that I'm talking about on the next prompts, right? Even if you use vague words, the LLM will sometimes or most of the times give you the correct technical words, right? And so while prompting, notice what works, what doesn't. Keep a note of what works, right? So now I'll hand over to Banna to see the practices in our day-to-day work, right? So, Banna.
So thank you, Shantanu Bhai, for this amazing explanation of the best practices. So let's start with our next part of this session. So when we see some courses or read blog posts about the best practices of prompting or good prompting, so in those courses or blog posts, they give a standalone example with every best technique. So best practice, but they don't typically show those practices being implemented on a real world project, or how we can use that in our real life scenarios. So the idea of this portion of this session is that we'll try to, or we'll see the two apps being built using one using the bad prompting techniques and another with the good prompting techniques, and see the effectiveness of the good prompting. So without further ado, let's start. So initially, let's look into the project requirements, or the goal, or what we want to build. So we want to build a simple to-do app. So the project requirements is it should have some core features, the basic features like adding tasks, deleting tasks, and completing tasks. And next one, it should have a feature like tagging. So it should have we should be able to add tags to the tasks like work, personal, shopping, health, finance, education, and other from this list. And the next requirement is we should be able to prioritize our tasks from low, medium, and high, and this should be a drop down. And the number 4 requirement is this app should be built using, oh sorry, probably I haven't shared my, yeah, sorry. So yeah, so this is the requirements. So yeah, so I am in the number 3. So we should be able to prioritize our tasks. And the number 4 requirement is this app should be built in using React and TypeScript. And the app should be persistent over when we reload our page. And some UX UI improvements. So this is optional. So now let's see the bad prompts and the good prompts. So we have structured this app in 5 categories, so or 5 goals. Initially, we want to build a simple to-do app structure, then add task feature, then add task priority feature, add text feature, and make it persistent, and finally do some UI UX refinement. So first let's look into the bad prompt. So here we have given it prompt create a simple to-do app, keep it minimal and fast. So this is very vague. There is no clear specifications or instructions. And let's look into the counterpart of it, the good prompt. So here we have structured it in structured syntax like task, role, requirements, and output format. So in the task, build the foundation of a minimal modern to-do web app. Role, we have given it a role, expert React plus TypeScript developer. And the requirements are add delete, mark test as complete, then use React and Tailwind CSS, and output is give me the like project set of instructions and the file structure. So here you can see that we have anchored very early what we want to build, or the task we have placed it on top, and we also have given it a role so that we can get expert responses. So this and we have also clearly defined our what we want basically and how we want it and the constraints that we have. So that's the bad and good prompt for the building a simple to-do file structure or the project. And for the next goal, add task priority. So the bad prompt is I want this app to be the talk of the town. So makes us very cool and unique. So cool and unique is very vague and subjective. So if LLM can interpret it anyway. So it's not specific or anything. And for the good prompt, the task again we have anchored very high from the top. So task add a priority field, low, medium, high. We have also given it the options, and the constraints are show as a drop down, display next to task name, persist in a state, keep UI simple, use React components, and the reminder maintaining existing styling, implement this priority feature. So the end of prompt reinforcement is also there. We have like at the end of the prompt we have again enforced like what we want to build. So this is a concrete example, and we have used very many concrete nouns like React and priority and UI. So and we have clearly defined our scope. So we have scope isolation and structure syntax. We have made the prompt in structured formats. So this should give us good response. And for the next feature, which is add tags. So the bad prompt is let's make the task more descriptive. Maybe we can attach some extra things. Again, this is very vague. Like, what do you mean by more descriptive and what extra things? But for the good prompt, we have given the task add tags. Context app has tags with name, completion status, and priority. Constants are multi-select drop-down option, and options include work, personal, shopping, health, finance, education, and other. And display as color labels persist in task state. Output is modified React components. So give me only the modified React components. So here we have explained the technical details, context, and output format, and we have also defined the scope, like what it should do, like modify only the React components. So that's the example of a good prompt for this feature. And the number 4 feature is local storage persistence. So here we said for the bad prompt, improve and make it more usable. So what it should improve, we haven't said anything about it. How and making it usable is also very subjective. We haven't given it any context or any constraints or anything. And the counterpart good prompt is task is implement local storage persistence. Context is data research on browser refresh. So we have told it like what the current state is, like currently the browser dot the data research on browser refresh when we refresh the browser. So that's the context, and the constraints are save tasks on state update, load tasks on initialization, no external libraries, and keep all functions. So don't modify the things that you have done till now. And again, we have given it a reminder. So please ensure all data. So here we have used please. So yeah, so so here we have like given it a step-by-step instructions, explicit output format. Again, use concrete nouns and clearly instructed it what it should do. So these best practices were used here. And for the final task, define UI and UX. So we told it make the UI better and check if everything's okay. So we haven't said anything about like how to make it better, nothing. But for the good prompt, so we said enhance UI to be vibrant, intuitive, and professional while keeping layout clean. Role is a senior front-end engineer and UI UX developer. So we have given it another role, UI UX developer, so that it can give us responses based like the expertise responses of a UI UX designer. And the context is this is a React with React plus Tailwind app with functional state. So this is the current context or the current state of our app till now. And the requirements are modern palette, subtle design, gradients, smooth transitions, improve typography, responsive designs, and engaging empty state. And the output formats are steps plus updated JSX and Tailwind classes, design rational. So this should be our output. And again, we have given it the reminder. And so to like utilize the best practice of end of prompt reinforcement. So these are the 5 bad prompts and their counterpart good prompts. And using those prompts, we have generated 2 apps, two apps. So let's start the app that we generated using the bad prompts. So let's look into it. This is the app that we have generated using the bad prompts. So initially it looks really good, clean, because the LLMs are really, like they are very intelligent. Even if you give vague prompts, bad prompts, they will generate good stuff. So let's see it in action. So let me just give it add a task, prepare knowledge sharing session. Nice. We can cross it, or we can even delete it. And there is another feature. If we click on this add, we can give it a name. Let's add another. We can even give due date. We haven't said anything about due date. This was not in our project requirement, but it has given it very fine. It has given another field description. So if you remember correctly, there was something like we said, like let's make the task more descriptive. So it has given us a field description, but we wanted it to, or we meant by this prompt that like add tags, but it added description. So no worries. Let's add that. Very nice. So these are the tasks. But let's see what happens when we refresh the page. All gone. So sure, it has given like a very good UI, and like we can add tasks and we can give descriptions and due dates and everything. But like the main purpose, we wanted tags. We wanted prioritization. Those are not here because we haven't explicitly said those, and it's not persistent. So to be done for the day, you don't need to actually, according to, if you use this app, you don't need to actually like perform all the tasks that you have added in this app. You should, you can just like refresh this app and you are done for the day. So there's something, and it has another cool feature. Like when you click here, let's see. It changes the background color. Very nice. But it is doing a lot of things, but not the things that you actually want. So now let's look into the good app. This is the good app. This is very simple. Looks okay, not bad. And let's see it in action. So let me give it my first task, which is think about ways to become a billionaire overnight. And give it a prioritization. This is medium. Add tags. This is finance and personal. Okay. Here it has added that. Let's add another task, which is in my to-do list always. This is high. This is the question the meaning of life and suffer from existential routine crisis. So add this task and make it personal. Add task. Very nice. Let's add another. Work on the sprint tasks. This is very low. Prioritization is low. This is work. So add it. So we can see that it has added this task here. We can cross this out. Now let's look into the most important part. Does it persist? Yeah, it does. So it works as we expected or as we wanted, according to our project requirements. And it hasn't like given much fluff, like change the background color using a button and like due date and descriptions and all that, because we didn't explicitly mention those, but what we mentioned is present here. So I don't know about you, but I will take a working app any day over a beautiful and like with all this stuff. And I want my AI to generate exactly the things that I want without much fluffs, because these extra optimization or these extra features are not free, because it uses or it burns through our most valuable tokens. And so where, like, if we want to add those tag and prioritization feature, we need to reprompt and burn out more tokens. So let's look into the code. So this is the bad code example, bad prompt example. So here you can see that it has generated only in HTML file and wrote like thousands and thousands of lines. So this is not the way to do it, right? It's not maintainable. We wanted to make this app to build using React, but as we didn't say anything about it, it hasn't done that. So it's only a HTML file. Let's look into the good apps code. So this is a good apps code. It has built this app using React, as we explicitly mentioned. So yeah, so now these are the things, and here we can see the actual effectiveness of the good prompting techniques that Shantanu Bhai has kindly like mentioned and talked about. So when we use these good prompting techniques, like sure, if we give vague prompts, we might get cool results or good results, but this is not always guaranteed. If you want to consistently get guaranteed results and like what you want and get consistent output, you need to use good prompting techniques. And here in this session, we have only talked about the core techniques of the good prompt engineering. There are lots of other advanced techniques that we will look into our future sessions. So this is our presentation, and stay tuned for more such sessions regarding AI, because Cephalo is very much invested in what happened. Hello, can you see my screen? My display just went off.
We can see your screen.
Okay, so my monitor just went off. No worries. So stay tuned for more such sessions, and that's about it. Any questions?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much for such a nice presentation. The synchronization was really great with Shantanu Bhai and you. So my question is regarding about the adaptability of this prompt techniques. For example, as a developer, we used to do coding mostly, and like most of these things, what we just already showed, I felt it like it's more related to the agenting work. Like I want to do something with this agent. This is all these prompts are mostly related to that. But I was wondering, like writing a prompt also takes some time and also some kind of some thinking. So actually, how should we adopt it in our day-to-day life? Because writing down something for like let's say for writing down for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it is also expensive. And we most of the time you don't need all these things. Sometimes we just need to see the code. We need to go through the code. We want the AI to go through our code base and give us some suggestions. So actually that is my question.
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, so how we can basically like adopt these techniques in our day-to-day life. So when we start, this becomes like a something like we have to go out of our way to make a prompt good, but after doing it for some time, it will become a muscle memory. So here, then it will be hard for you to actually write bad prompts. So you can actually do that in that way. And another thing is that there are lots of other good prompting techniques and things, or as we use agentic development, we'll see. So this makes our life very easier, and the IDs or the models, those are like very intelligent right now. So as we saw that even with bad prompts we get good results, but those are not always consistent. So you can actually try, as I said, at first you need to go out of your way, but eventually it will become a muscle memory. So Shantanu bhai, if you would like to add something.
Yeah, that's a very good explanation. That is exactly what I also found while I was experimenting. That is, you will eventually learn how to do it well. So, and that's one thing. And I have also learned another thing is that when you learn that okay, these are the prompts that gives me good output. What I've done is that I have a notepad full of prompt templates where I just replace the topics, right? So for like a development task, I have a template. I just have to tweak a few words, and then for example, like for some exploration task or documentation task, I have some other template. So you could use that template, and for some prompts that does not fit into those templates, what I made was that, as I mentioned, that I have a GPT. So for the things that you have learned, you can create a GPT, for example, that will review your prompt and give you, tell you how to improve it, right? So this takes away some of the frictions for thinking about prompting, right? So first of all, this will be a learning curve. You will be better at it once you use better prompting, and then you will know how to make yourself efficient in these ways, right? So I guess that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Ray. Thank you both of you.
I think I can add one point. I mean, if we want to use generative AI tools, we need to also invest our time to actually learn prompting. If we think that we will learn it automatically by doing mistakes, then we are doing it slow, right? So there are lots of actually, even Google has this, Google is providing a free course on actually prompt engineering. It's free for everyone, right? So we can just go through some of those courses and probably get a better or faster understanding.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I guess Sophie has a question in the chat room.
In the chat, right?
So yeah, I was using GPT-4 and GPT-4 Mini for some tasks, and there I was actually surprisingly getting much more good result in GPT-4 Mini by a good prompt setup, but it was not that good on GPT-4o. But I think GPT-4o is much more powerful than the Mini. So just a question to Banna or Shantanu Bhai, if there is any reason, if they can give me. So that is just a question.
So the reason might be like the underlying implementation of those models, but to think about it, like with good prompts, with any model, we should be, or that's the expected thing, like we should get good results using good prompts. But the 4o mini is giving good results with good prompting, but not 4o, even though it's more powerful. This could be a underlying thing, how the models are implemented, and like not all models react to the same prompting techniques in the same way. So this is kind of like this is not exact science. So this is something like a trial and error. You should see like which works for your model and your projects. So there are lots of other things. Some could work for this model, some could work for other model as well. So this is kind of like a trial and error. So actually, I don't think we have good reason for it how the 4o performs poorly, but this is something we can look on, and yeah, so that's about it.
Definitely, I'll reach out to you personally on this one. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. That is a great session. Thank you, Vesh.
Thank you.
Yeah, let
So
me also add that I think this was a great session, and as Bana said, this is a super important topic for everyone, every software engineer, probably the most important thing going on at the moment for everyone to learn to use AI tools and what it's good for and what it's not so good for, what's the possibilities, what are the limitations. So as Bana said, we will try to make more sessions, hopefully weekly or at least bi-weekly going forward. So stay tuned.
Okay, I think we can wrap up. Thank you, guys. Jawad bhai, you can stop the recording and we can conclude.